Welcome, good afternoon. My name is Els Bedert. I'm the Director of Product Policy and Sustainability at EuroCommerce. A big welcome to our speakers and the people online. We're very happy to see that there's a big interest in this webinar and in the EU Ecolabel. This webinar is organized on the happy occasion of the 30th anniversary of the Ecolabel. And we organize it together with two other organizations, namely the European Environmental Bureau, which is the largest network of environmental citizens organizations in Europe, with BEUC, which is the umbrella group for 46 independent consumer organizations from 32 countries, and EuroCommerce. We are the principal European organization representing the retail and the wholesale sector, and we have members or association members in 37 European countries, and we have 35 direct company members. The three organizations are all members of the EU Ecolabel board, and we are therefore following and taking part in the communication activities around the 30th anniversary of the EU Ecolabel. And together we actually prepared, and we are like to promote this publication, which is called Why the EU Ecolabel is a Win-Win for consumers and retailers. And this is what we want to present to you today. And I would, of course, like to thank BEUC and EEB for their great cooperation in preparing this publication. We also like to take this occasion to actually have an exchange with all interesting parties, and of course, including retailers and retailers associations, to see how we can get even more out of this, out of the Ecolabel. Before we start with the presentations, to colleagues you think might later. I hope that so there is also a Q&A after the presentations. You can put your questions in the Slido box. It should be underneath the live stream. So if you don't see it, maybe you have to exit from the full screen that you're using. And if you just come to a smaller screen, then the Slido box will appear, and you can post your questions, but please also mention your name and the organization you are representing. We will not take anonymous questions. So, as I said, we have an interesting program. We have 3 speakers lined up for you today. We have Mrs. Silvia Ferratini. She's team leader from DG Environment on the Ecolabel. We have Mrs. Emese Gulyas. She is a representative from the Association of Conscious Consumers in Hungary. And we have Mr. Correto Gormson, and he's from the Danish Chamber of Commerce. So a big welcome to all of you. We will, as I said, we will have the 3 presentations first, and we will group. So we will have a Q&A session after the 3 presentations that are lined up for you now. So hold them or already mention them in the chat if you want to, and then we will deal with them later. So without a further delay, I would propose to already start with giving the floor to Mrs. Silvia Ferratini for her presentation. Silvia, the floor is yours. I cannot hear her.
Yes, sorry, I start again. So good afternoon to everybody, and thanks EuroCommerce, EEB and BEUC for having invited me to this interesting webinar, and also for being such active partners in the promotion of the EU Ecolabel. I will start with a very brief introduction on the EU Ecolabel scheme. Next one, please. Next slide. So, as you may know, the EU Ecolabel is the official European Union voluntary label for environmental excellence. And what does this mean? First of all, it means that it has a European scope, so that it can be awarded to products all over Europe, and it's also recognized by millions of consumers that are around in Europe. It gives a wide choice because the EU Ecolabel can be awarded to 24 product groups that are very diverse. They range from detergent to textiles to paper to paints and so on. But it's a best-in-class label because it's awarded to goods and services that meeting high environmental criteria through the entire life cycle. So it's a really a label of best-in-class environmental excellence. It's independent and transparent because it is the criteria are set up through a really transparent multi-stakeholder consultations that end up in criteria that are also voted by member states, and the process is inclusive and transparent. And what is also very important that distinguishes this label from other labels that are on the market is that it's third-party verified. In each member state, we have at least one competent body that has to verify that the products bearing the ecolabel comply with the strict criteria that are set for it. Next slide, please. If you have a brief look at figures of what is the ecolabel on the market today, as I said, it can be awarded to 24 product groups, and the really good news it is that during these last years, the numbers of EU ecolabel products on the market have been increasing steadily. We have now 90,000 products almost on the market, corresponding to more than 2,000 licenses. Licenses is a number that we use as a proxy to the number of companies that are involved in the EU ecolabel. And if you look at the slide in the categories on the left, we can see that the most successfully are the do-it-yourself product, like with paints. We have also the paper products. One of the most successful product group is tissue paper and tissue product. We have the detergents product with hard surface cleaning products is among the best ones. We have also textiles and hard surface, also textile product. And we have the best performing countries like Spain, Italy, and Germany. However, we are all aware that if we count the numbers, the total numbers, the millions of numbers of products that are on the market, we are still a small drop. And this is why we are seeking out, let's say, help in the promotion of the ecolabel to the best key actors that are on the market that can be our allies. And this is why we are now reaching out to you, to the retailers community. Next slide, please. If we see, but what does the ecolabel guarantee? What is the meaning of the criteria of the EU ecolabel? So depending on the product group, the criteria are set up to minimize the impact of the product along its life cycle. That means for different kinds of products, the products are durable, easy to dismantle, repair, reuse, and recycle. We are setting criteria that are minimizing the CO2 emissions, but as well the emissions to water and air. The hazardous substances are minimized in production processes and in the products, and so on. And there are also criteria that guarantee high quality products. Next slide, please. This is to say that this is why we say that the ecolabel is a tool that is connecting citizens and market actors to the overall political objective. But why? Because if we think about and we take the Green Deal, we know that there is one of strong pillar that is the mobilizing the industry for a clean and circular economy. And within the pillar, there is also highlighted the need to empower consumers to make informed choice and to play an active role in the ecological transition. And we believe that the ecolabel is a tool to achieve the goal of the circular economy, to achieve the goal of empowering consumers, and to achieve also the goal of several initiatives that are now being, let's say, born from the Green Deal, such as, for instance, the Circular Economy Action Plan. I have already mentioned it, but we have the European Climate Law, the New Consumer Agenda, the Zero Pollution Action Plan, the Chemical Strategy, because in fact, if you think about the Ecolabel, it allows industry to put on the market products that are better, that are saving resources, saving energy, that are, let's say, sparing pollutions, that are not containing hazardous chemicals. But in the same way, they are also empowering consumers to choose. So in a way, they are the Ecolabel is giving, and this was also highlighted in the Empowering Consumers in the Green Transition Directive proposal. It's also, empowering consumers to see what are the green products, the reliable green products that are on the market. Next slide, please. So, but what it is for retailers, what is the role of retailer? What can the Ecolabel mean for retailers? And I believe that the Ecolabel is an opportunity for retailers to different things. First of all, to provide consumers with trusted, sustainable products, so the retailers can decide to put on the shelves, to offer online, to offer to the consumers Ecolabel product. In this way, they play their part in shaping more sustainable consumption habits. At the same time, they can, in this way, they can be one step ahead of future advertising rules. We are seeing that, and we know that the Commission has intention to put more, let's say, rules on how green claims can be done on the market, and they have started already with empowering consumers for the green transition initiative in setting some of the rules. And for instance, the Ecolabel is there recognized as one reliable way to identify green products. We have to remember that also retailers can certify their products with the EU Ecolabel, the products that they are selling under their own brand names, and they are also through the Ecolabel enabled to report easily on the sustainability, because they can report on the number of Ecolabel they sell, on the share the Ecolabel product they sell, and retailers can, of course, also join very relevant initiative with the Commission, such as the Sustainable Consumption Pledge, through increasing the visibility and also the offer of the Ecolabel products. Next slide, please. We know that retailers are key partners to increase uptake and awareness of the EU Ecolabel. And from the Commission side, we are preparing a strategic communication plan for the future communication activities on the EU Ecolabel, and retailers will be key partners in this plan. From our side, we are also optimizing the EU Ecolabel catalog that is online and is providing the list of Ecolabel products that are available. But just to remember that EU Ecolabel data are already available and free to use, so they can be downloaded from the EU Open Data Portal. And through this portal, through the existence of this portal, we have also already established collaboration with some online marketplaces. I'm here mentioning just a few, like Amazon, Bol.com, Mercateo, Yarnbark. We have several others. And what are these partnerships? This partnership is a sort of collaboration that we establish. They are mature in a different, all the collaboration are in different stages of maturity. The overall aim is that when consumers are shopping online, they can recognize more easily and they can find more easily the products that have the EU Ecolabel. So the Ecolabel is displayed, it is explained what it is, and in any case, they are clustered under green products. Given the success that we have with this partnership, we are developing a strategic approach for setting up new partnership as at a European level, but also at national level. That means that, for instance, next slide, please. If there is any interest, retailers or marketplace that would like to establish such a collaboration, they can contact either our EU Ecolabel desk help desk or our EU Ecolabel competent bodies, and the links are in the slides. So for the moment, that's all for me. Next slide, please. And do not hesitate to let me know if there is any question afterwards in the question and answer session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sylvia. This was very, very clear. Already a good of forward-looking actions, and maybe there might be some more questions about that later. But it is encouraging to see, indeed, that you are continuing to build on the successes of the Ecolabel. I'm then handing over the floor to Emese. If you could maybe take us through your presentation and what your association has been doing in relation to the Ecolabel. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the invitation. I'm representing the Association of Conscious Consumers from Hungary. We work for sustainable and ethical consumption for 20 years. And not long ago, we started a campaign about household chemicals, about the sustainable and safe uses of household chemicals. And our goal, among others, was to promote the eco-labeled products. And we delivered many researches and we gained many insights about how consumers think about ecological products, about eco-labeled products. And I want to share these learnings from our activities today. Please, the next slides. Next slide. So first about the future trends and why ecological products and especially certified products are important. So when we talk about the future trends, we always talk about the attitude of the young people. And as you can see from this data from this survey that was published by the Commission, environmental problems, climate problems are still on the top when young people talk about their problems, how they perceive the world. And this is manifest in their consumption habits. I am sure that you know many researches and insights about this, but this is clear that young consumers, so the next generation, the future, is looking for ecological products. It is not an accident that all retailers and companies try to sell their products as green, a growing number or the growing proportion of their products as greens, with green messages, with green images, and unfortunately, yet only in limited cases with verified ecological benefits. And this creates a very confusing situation for consumers. If you think about it, a very ordinary consumer decision, a choice is made within 7 seconds only. So it is only 7 seconds that a consumer reads the label, takes into consideration the price, the ecological messages. On the other hand, there are more than 500 eco-labels globally. So this is a really confusing and stressful situation for consumers. I am sure that many of you know the recent survey of the European Commission that found that 42% of the green claims from the SSD industry proved to be false or deceptive. So this is, again, there are too many green messages, green communication. Recently, just to mention another example, I found a cosmetics, actually it was a small cosmetics, a tube of 100 milliliters, and that small product contained 7 environmental messages. Some of them were environmental certifications, some of them were about how to collect the garbage. Of course, it contained many green leaves and vegan approval and so on. So the green message is right now just too much. It is a bit of noise. And actually, this is why we as a consumer organization recommend the Ecolabel, the European Union Ecolabel, or its national equivalents like the Blue Angel from Germany or the Nordic Swan. Because we think that this is very important, that the criteria is transparent for these eco-labels, for this certifying scheme. As it was mentioned, their methodology is based on robust evidences. And they prefer those products, those processes that are climate friendly, less polluting, and so on. So we believe that the EU Ecolabel and its national equivalents may compass consumer decisions towards a really environmental friendly choice. So the next slide, please. So as I mentioned, it is 4 years ago, we started a project that, among others, promotes the EU Ecolabels. One of the key activities was a series of product tests. And why we started this? Because at the beginning, we delivered researches and we made focus groups to learn about the hindering factors why consumers not yet choose the eco-labeled products. And we found 4 main reasons. One of the reasons was that consumers think that the eco-labeled products are not as efficient, functionally not as efficient as the regular or the products, let's say this. They also think that eco-labeled products are always more expensive. Another problem that we faced is that consumers don't see these products on the shelves. They claim that they never come across these products with the eco-label. And finally, at least in Hungary, the poor visual recognition, the poor visual recall of the eco-label was also a problem. So we thought that a series of product tests would solve some of these problems, or at least could contribute to the solution. So in the past years, we delivered 10 product tests, mainly cleaning products, for example, dishwashing detergents, washing powder, all-purpose cleaners, whatever, white ball pens, and so on. And the tests were focusing on the performance. And occasionally, we also measured the presence of some chemical substances. And our general conclusion from the 10 tests was that eco-labeled products were usually among the top runners, if not the winners of these tests. This is a really good news for the consumers, because they can buy efficient products that fits the purpose, means less burden for the environment, and a surprising fact that these products are not necessarily more expensive. These are like any other products. There is a price range from cheaper to more expensive. So we think that with this test, we could contribute to refuting those misbeliefs or misconceptions that consumers used to, let's say, or let's hope, used to attach to ecological products. And I also have to mention that these product tests are very popular. They have outstanding readership in our consumer magazine, and they are interesting for the media as well. So Hungary has a population of 10 million almost, and these tests could reach out more than 5.5 million consumers, which we think is a very good results. And we can witness also that the product offer in stores is increasing, the offer of ecological products in general, and in some cases eco-labeled products. Yes, the next slide, please. I brought another example. This is our recent campaign, because we also make regular market measurements. And one of our last measurements brought surprising results, because we could see that between 2018 and 2020, the market share and the turnover of eco-labeled products slightly declined. Remember that 2020 was the first COVID year, but at the same time, the market turnover of the so-called eco products that are not certified grew almost 7 times. So this led us to the launch of this campaign that is a twin campaign against greenwashing and for the promotion of the eco-label. The campaign has 2 pillars. It is still running right now. One pillar is about introducing the most frequent ecological claims. Should these be textual claims or visual images, as you can see, for example, this little Save Our Planet message on this fake product. So altogether, we created 15 fake products with fake environmental messages, and explained to consumers why they should be cautious if they see these messages. And on the other hand, the other pillar of the campaign is the promotion of the eco-label, explaining the advantages of the eco-labeled products, and just show the visuals to help consumers recognize these labels when they do shopping. Yes, the next slide, please. One of our recent activity was also the launch of the Conscious Consumer app in 2020. Its first version focused on cleaning products, and we ranked the cleaning products with this app. We displayed the substances from the safety data sheets of the product, and this meant an added value for the consumers, because usually substances from the safety data sheet are not displayed on the label. So the products are ranked based on this information on the environmental and health characteristics of those substances, and those products that has eco-label always ranked higher, because they are given extra points for the eco-label, because it communicates a wider perspective, not only about the substances. And in just 2 weeks, we are going to have a new extension of the application. This will be an inventory of the eco-labeled products that we can find on the Hungarian market. This is EU Ecolabel products, Nordic Swan, Blue Angel, Hungarian Ecolabel, and Austrian Ecolabel. These are the most popular ones in Hungary. And if consumers want to buy certified eco-labeled products, they just consult the app and look for the certified papers, hygiene products, office supplies, and so on. So far, this application has 17,000 downloads from Hungary, which we think is a good result, and it is still the most popular sustainable consumption app in the country. Besides the consumer app, the greenwashing manifesto and campaign and the product test, we also delivered smaller scale actions. For example, we invited consumers to try personally eco-label products and share their experience. Several hundred consumers took part in these challenges and community tests. And the last slide, please. So finally, I would like to say some words about the role of retailers in promoting the eco-label products and helping consumers to find these products. I think that the market concentration is different in all countries, in all European countries, but the model is very similar to this one that is from the UK from almost 10 years ago. So there is a small number of retailers who are gatekeepers between the suppliers and the households. So they have decisive power on what consumers have access to. And why not to promote, to have real ecological products to get on the shelves. I also have to note here that according to our data, the household status and the income positively correlates with the recognition of the Ecolabel. So those who choose Ecolabel products at the end, those are really value consumers for retailers. And as I mentioned at the beginning, there is a confusion, there is a green noise on the market, and the retailers can help to overcome this problem. This photo was taken about a year ago in a drugstore chain, and there were 3 green shelves in the store with several products, and only a couple of them had certification. So this is really the choice of retailers, how they promote the eco-label, how they help consumers to find those really green products that have environmental benefits. So I think at the end, this contribution would be really beneficial for consumers who seek for the really green alternatives. It is beneficial for the retailers because it attracts value consumers, and at the end, this is beneficial for the planet. Thank you for the attention.
Thank you very much. Some very active initiatives on your current level. Very interesting to see how you're trying to indeed communicate to consumers and make them aware of this label. It's always very helpful. I think that's also what retailers would look for. If you have a demand from your consumers, it's it will balance also, will encourage you to also respond to that demand. And I think that probably is a very good leeway to the third presentation from Querétaro, who's actually representing the Danish Association Chamber of Commerce, of course, with the retailers and wholesalers in there, and I think also would give another perspective again about how retailers look into it, look at the eco-label, and also looking forward, I think, because indeed sustainability is continuously increasing, and I think we all have the same objective in mind, increasing production and consumption of these products. So, Querétaro, the floor is yours.
Yes, hello everyone, and thank you so much for previous presentations. As I said, my name is Querétaro Gormson. I work for the Danish Chamber of Commerce in Brussels, where I follow environmental policy. And I also represent EuroCommerce and the European Ecolabel Board as an observer. And I'm just gonna come by with a few points on the retail perspective on Ecolabel and how we can use it as retailers. Next slide, please. And as the 2 presenters before me very well mentioned, then the Ecolabel is quite big and quite well known across the EU. And the product size has really grown over the last 10 years. As Sylvia mentioned, there's about 90,000 products and the services now. And I think it's really important to realize how we can really use the Ecolabel as part of retailers' strategies. One of the reasons why we can do it is that it's official and trusted. We have 30 years of experience dealing with them, and there are these national competent bodies that really underpin the whole system, which is really reassuring for retailers when they have to go out and look for products they can promote if they want to go in a more sustainable direction. And again, having just the sustainable products literally on the shelves with a clear label on it really gives that visibility that a lot of retailers really need, because it's really difficult for a retailer themselves to go out and verify claims, whereas having something displayed at eyesight for when customers enter the shop is just great. Another really important part of this is the fact that there are so many products available now that retailers can really pick and choose for what they need, and they can build up relationships with these products, brands, and suppliers over over time. And then finally, and I think both the previous speakers have mentioned it, but I think that's one thing that's really beneficial to retailers, and something that we will see more in coming years, is using the ecolabel really is a good way to be ahead of the curve, because what we see on European policy on sustainability, environment, circular economy, we see an increasing number of demands that there should be both demands from consumers for more environmentally friendly products, demands from policymakers to retailers, and again from retailers to their suppliers for a more sustainable environment. And that becomes an increasingly complex world to navigate in. I mean, and we enter these really difficult situations where a claim can be made in good faith but can be misleading, or where we don't know if we can underpin our claims, so we are afraid of actually promoting good products. Here, the ecolabel is just a really solid system that just guarantees that you are actually on a good sustainable path. And for instance, when we think about the upcoming green public procurement requirements that we will most likely see increase substantially or in the coming years, just knowing that you have the ecolabel on your shelves is a really good way to engage with this policy process and really already be ahead of the curve, because you already have the products in your shop. However, I also just want to mention a few issues, which is that there are of course no one-size-fits-all model. Next slide, please. So we know that there are very big differences in the awareness of ecolabel schemes in general in the EU, and of the different labels. So the two classics we see are that the German Blue Angel and in the Nordics, the Nordic Swan, are almost universally known by everyone, whereas the ecolabel has very differing uptake rates in those countries by consumers. However, the ecolabel is a really strong brand for two reasons primarily. One is that it's the only one that's available in all EU markets. And the second thing is that it's overall the one that's, by that cause, also the one that's most known by European consumers. And so different surveys over the last 5 to 10 years showed different numbers, of around 1/4 to 1/3 of consumers know and are aware of the European ecolabel. And we also see at the same time, as even though in those countries where there are already nationally really well-established brands, like Nordic Swan, we also see an increase of awareness for the European ecolabel. For instance, in Denmark, you've seen a roughly 10 percentage points increase in awareness of the European ecolabel over the last 10 years. So that's, of course, really, really encouraging. From retailers, what we want to really highlight in this is that we need to both increase the general awareness of ecolabels and also adapt to local markets, because often consumers will not know the interplay between the national labels and the ecolabel. And that goes to the next point. Next slide, please. Which is that trust is so essential for these sustainability labels. And we know that 1 in 3 consumers felt misled by claims earlier. I think the previous example from Hungary was really, really good, where you can easily have displays, labels on packaging that can easily mislead consumers. And we really want to make sure that that gets rooted out, while maintaining a bit of diversity, so we can have different labels in the market. Because if consumers don't feel they can trust the labels that they see in shops, then of course they will be less likely to actually try the labels that are actually good. And vice versa, retailers will be really hesitant to try and invest both their time and energy and money and building up good portfolios with products and build relationships with suppliers with good ecolabels like the ones we've mentioned today, and of course the European ecolabel first and foremost. because it becomes a vicious cycle. And that really leads me to my next point, which is that, and the next slide, please, which is that we really look forward to this upcoming proposal on green claims from the Commission, because we really want to have both a sector that is dynamic, and at the same time make sure that we can root out any unverifiable claims, so that only those retailers and organizations that really want to do what's right get promoted, and consumers can really find those good products in the shelves when they enter a shop that they're looking for. And that is a key issue, we believe. So if we look a bit ahead of the future for ecolabels from a retailer's perspective, we really want to stress just a few things. It's really important to acknowledge that it takes a lot of time for products and brands to obtain the ecolabel. It takes a lot of time for retailers to get in touch, find the right products, and put them on the shelves, test them out, and see how consumers react. And so that really is something we need to keep working on better on. And we really need to ensure that we keep having good data. Sylvia mentioned the Commission's open data portal for the ecolabel, and we really want to make sure that continues to be a good and strong system. We know that data is crucial to this, and we also see this in other related sustainability legislation that is coming from the EU these years, is most famously from the ongoing eco-design regulation, but also from the existing energy labeling system, where they've set up a database for all energy labeled products. And that's just an enormous work that we need to continue on to really build these foundations for future uptake for the ecolabel. And I think that becomes even more and more present concern, as we see that a lot of consumers shop online and simply aren't going to be physically available in the shop. So they will need to have good and trusted information that's easily accessible, either on their phone or at their laptop, right in their living room or wherever they are. Then the final thing I could just say is that given the different rates of awareness of the ecolabel in EU member states, we just have to continue our work and keep raising awareness. That's a role that really falls on all of us. Retailers need to put the ecolabel products on display in shops. It needs to be available, easily identifiable on websites. And of course, we need to have a good and constructive relationship with authorities, both at the EU and national level, to really promote the ecolabel moving forward. Thank you so much. That was it for me.
Thank you very much, Direto. So I think clear support from our sector as well, but also some caveats like, there is further work needed also on the awareness raising, and maybe on the process as such. I think what I've also heard is indeed it's really important to have this data on which products are on the market. And I think this is also linked quite closely to what the Hungarian example showed, that to make it easy for consumers to understand which products are there and where they can find them. So I think that all plays into the fact that we have to work at different levels, both with the manufacturers as retailers, to combine that offer with the demand and with the consumers, that they're aware of, to continue to work on the awareness and address misconceptions. I found it a very interesting approach as well. There is an issue about how efficient is it, and is it more costly? And I think it's all, we have to work on all those different aspects and across Europe. So all very relevant examples. I have a few questions already lined up, but maybe I think if I can just briefly ask the Commission as well, because you mentioned something on the communication plan and partnership strategy. Do you have a timeline for that? Is that something is there a little bit of detail that you can give about what that could actually contain, this strategy and the communication around the eco-label? Because I think we've heard that it needs further attention.
Yes, few words. In fact, we are in the process of co-creating the strategy with all the EU Ecolabelling stakeholders. We had a very preliminary presentation about it last week at the EU Ecolabelling board, and the aim is to have one meeting in January with the relevant stakeholders, really to fine-tune a bit the detail and have it written, let's say, at the beginning of next year, written down. The idea that we are having is that we have to allocate a clear responsibility to the communication and to give different stakeholders different, let's say, roles, in the sense that some type of communications are, for instance, the communication to consumers are more efficient when they are delivered closer to the consumers. So for the moment, we saw that, for instance, the role of the Commission in communicating towards the eco-label is more relevant when it's communicating to stakeholders, to clear associations, to umbrella association, and so on. Whereas when it is communication to consumers, then it's more relevant and it's more efficient when it is done at national level. And that's why we would like to, let's say, in a way, co-create a strategy with stakeholders, so that also member states are engaged and local actors are engaged at national level, or even local level, or even, let's say, small level. We apply a little bit the principle of subsidiarity. And this can be applied also to retailers association too, in the sense that you can be very good partners with us in passing the message to your associations or your stakeholders, but then it's a matter of communicating on the ground. It's better if the communication is done by themselves too. So this is a bit the principle. So we are trying to decide and to define how, and to see, in fact, how this can be put in place in practice. How can we ensure the engagement of all the actors, and of course how the Commission can also help in this transition.
Thank you very much. Makes a lot of sense to me, and I saw Gerito nodding, and Emesha also. So I don't know if you want to add something, the other speakers, on this particular aspect, if you feel this is something that you can contribute to, or you are already maybe in part of the dialogue. But maybe then, if not, then I think there are also some questions about the actual product categories. And I think what we see, there are already quite a few product categories, and there's sort of maybe a double question. One is, are there intentions to actually have more categories, product categories included, where an eco-label could be developed? And secondly, I have a specific question on textiles and clothing and textiles, because there the uptake doesn't seem to be too high. And if there was a reason, and I think maybe the Commission again, or Gerito or Emesha can maybe also get some insights from consumers, why this might be a little bit lower than expected. So are there more in the pipeline? Are there more needed? And what is the situation with textiles and clothing and textiles? Maybe, Emesha, can I just give the floor to you first? Do you have any idea about if there's a further ask from your consumers on this, or?
Yeah, I have some assumptions regarding the eco-label and textiles. I think that the situation there is that there are competitors, so-called competitors. So, for example, the organic certification is more widespread, or the GOTS certification, that is environmental and social certification. And as far as I know, they were on the certification market in advance of the EU Ecolabel, so probably that is the reason that the Ecolabel just hasn't yet catched up with them.
Okay, so the need was already addressed by another label on the market, maybe. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, Gerito, would you have any idea on?
Well, it becomes a bit speculative, but I have two thoughts, because it's related to the textiles and the sustainable textile strategy. And we know that the consumers are very sensitive when it comes to price and clothing. So of course, more even an idea of more expensive clothes could be one thing that could hold back the situation. That would be, I guess. And then the second issue is that we know that it's really a difficult market to make choices in. For instance, there are questions of reusability, recyclability, and durability that aren't necessarily easy to just solve. You might have a more environmentally product that is initially more heavy in its environmental footprint if it's made of, say, pure cotton, whereas it can be but recyclable and reusable, and easier to remake. But if you put in a bit of elastane, it might have a bigger durability. So it could also be that there are just some trade-offs that are just not as easy to overcome in the clothing sector. That would be, I guess, because we do, from our national point of view, also look into this in the European the Commission strategy for sustainable textiles. And there are pretty difficult questions to figure out because it's a pretty wide life cycle process. Just a question of sorting it is a huge issue.
Thank you for that. Sylvia, do you have any, can you give an answer, some clarity? Are there going to be more product categories in the pipeline? And
can I also say a few words on the textile thing?
Sure.
Because it's very interesting and very, let's say, topical at the moment. So I think that up to now, what we have seen that are the big players on the market that are coming out with several collections during the year and several, let's say, articles in different time of the year. And I think that the Ecolabel getting the Ecolabel is a bit demanding in terms of environmental criteria, but also in terms of the procedure that needs to be done to apply for the label. And I think that these big players cannot cope with this when they have so many products coming up with such a speed rate. And when talking to them in the past, we saw that they were maybe not interested in labeling just a little tiny part of their portfolio because they didn't want to, in the past, to say to consumers, yes, this part is green and the rest is not. So there was a bit of mismatch between the business model of having fast fashion and the Ecolabel. But now we saw in the textile strategy that fast fashion is out of fashion. So we have hope that in the future, by having products that are more durable, by having less, let's say, turnover of products on the market, these also big players can gain interest in the EU Ecolabel. And as you know, there is the interest, there is intention to develop, let's say, review the Ecolabel criteria at the same time that criteria under the Eco-Design for Sustainable Product Regulation will be established. So we will establish some complementary, let's say, tools that can work together. And this is our, let's say, new idea for the future on textiles. For what concerns the portfolio of the EU Ecolabel, so the intention of enlarging the portfolio, at the moment we have focused our effort in promotion of the existing product group, because we have seen in the past that when we were enlarging the portfolio, we were like just running to have very good criteria that were not really advertised, and we turned out of having good criteria that were with no uptake, and this was a waste of resources from us, from all the competent bodies, from all the stakeholders that were involved in the process. So for a moment, in our Ecolabel work plan, strategic work plan until 24, we have focused really on the enhancement of the communication. And then we will make a sort of assessment, and we will see whether we are also ready to open to other product groups. Of course, it's also a matter of resources, because each product group means a lot of research, a lot of people that are dedicated to it during several years.
Thank you. That's very clear. So I think we have time for another maybe one or two questions. Also an interesting one. What about the recognition of the Ecolabel in non-EU countries? I know that for other initiatives and legislation, the Commission actually actively goes out as well to third countries to promote their standards and their actions. Is there any initiative on that level? I'm sorry, Sylvia, I have to come back to you again. But is there any partnerships with other maybe producing countries where a lot of products are maybe imported from? Or is that also not the priority for the moment? Because, as you said, there is a lot of work or still in the pipeline at European level.
Now, first of all, we have to remember that to get the European Ecolabel, you have to make sure that your product is sold in Europe at least. So we are not, targeting products that are only sold on international market. And we have just really started collecting systematically the number of producers that are from other countries. And there are a few, but I have to say that they are not the majority. So this is why until now we have focused our effort on Europe. But this does not mean that we are not going to maybe reach also international consumer. A very interesting development that I can show with you is that the US Environmental Protection Agency has opened the process of revision of the federal list of ecolabels that is used in federal green public procurement. And there is possibility for European ecolabels to apply to be included in that list. And we are in the process of making this application. So if this is accepted, the ecolabel will be in the list of ecolabels that are recognized by the federal US government for public purchase. So this is quite relevant.
Okay, yeah, very interesting development as well. I'm going to have a very last question before I hand over to Sylvia Maurer from BEUC. It is about, indeed, but I think it's an important one because it's about the retailer sustainability practices. And you see, we saw, indeed, I think we feel we are part of the solution. If I can talk, we as a moderator from EuroCommerce, I think we really want to connect what is the producers and really provide the right products to the consumers and make that connection, help make that connection. So maybe, Kireto, could you maybe say 2 words about how this ecolabel can actually work or have an impact on sustainable strategies or sustainable practices of retailers? How is it seen overall in the sustainability?
Well, I think the biggest strength of the ecolabel is that it has this default position where if you use the ecolabel, you know you're using best in class. And so what you see with as Sylvia talked a bit about the eco-design regulation that's being discussed right now, the ecolabel it's not a default option, but it's a gold plating of the requirements. So you always know that if you're using ecolabel, you are already ahead with your sustainable practices. The same goes if you with this new green claims proposition, right? That the ecolabel is intended to be one of those safety nets that you can always use. So in case retailers have any doubts, they can always rely on the ecolabel. And with the expansion product variety, it really means that there is more and more to choose from. So it becomes not just 1 or 2, say, cleaning products, but a wide variety of products that you can use in your shop. And if you have any doubt that you don't have the resources to go out and have a third-party verification or hire lawyers, you can always go to the ecolabel because there is a robust methodology behind it, and it is backed up by member state authorities, and it has the supervision of the European Commission, which sets the standard. So that it's a really, really good gold-plated fallback option for you. And I think that's really valuable to retailers. Of course, even more important, the smaller shop you have, and the less time you have to actually do all these non-sales related aspects of your business.
Thank you very much. I have the feeling we could keep on talking about this, but time is running, and I'm afraid we have to close here the Q&A section. But we thank you very, very much for giving your views from all the different parties, of course, in this important project. And I'm very happy to hand over to Sylvia Maurer from BEUC for some concluding remarks. I'm sure you've learned as much as I have, but I would really like to hear what are your concluding remarks and probably how we can move forward with this. Thank you very much, Sylvia.
Thank you, Els. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The EU Ecolabel is 30 years old, but maybe it's just to say that it has never been more important than today. BEUC and the European Environment Bureau have been involved since the very beginning, and I think we are proud that we could contribute over time to its credibility and the level of ambition. But as Silvia Ferratini from the European Commission pointed out fully rightly, all this work would be useless without the efforts on the retail side that are already taking place to make this label a signpost on supermarket shelves. And as Quereto also said, in more and more in e-commerce now. But it would also maybe be useless without the work of national consumer groups who inform consumers about the meaning and the advantages of the eco-label and also where to find it. The presentation of Emese showed one example of how the conscious consumer organizations is doing this in Hungary, but recommending the eco-label to consumers and explaining its added value is also something that many more consumer groups in Europe do. We see from the research coming in that more and more consumers, and as Emese said, in particular the young ones, are interested to adopt more sustainable lifestyles. But we also see that this is only working if the changes can easily be implemented in their daily lives. And the eco-label is such an easy tool. And that's why we would encourage retailers and producers to make even more use and show more products even on the shelves in the future. I think while sustainability must today be an integral part of any business model to be successful, it's also important to say that retailers can be ahead of the curve with applying for the eco-label. That is what Quereto said. And I very much remember his saying that tens of thousands of users of the eco-label, be it as producers or retailers or consumers, cannot be wrong. That is really something that I took from this webinar. Get ahead of the curve is something which is maybe very important to stay innovative. And the demand is there from consumers, but also from regulators and from the retail side. Maybe one word on the way forward, if you allow me. I think the BEUC vision is that in 2030, consumers would have an easy choice, an affordable choice of sustainable products, and that those are the norm for everyone. We shouldn't be deciding whether we harm the climate or not. We should just have a good offer of what we can choose. And in this regard, I was very happy that we could organize today this seminar between the different organizations, so EuroCommerce, BEUC, and the EEB, because this webinar has maybe also shown that we have some common work to do. We must continue to explain it to consumers. We must make sure the products are available and make sure that this is embedded in EU policy. I thank you very much. I hope that this is only the start of a continuous cooperation between the organizations on further strengthening the eco-label. I would all wish you a very nice day and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. And thanks for the speakers. Yeah.